People spun this narrative that like, oh, you made us buy it, and then a few weeks later you put it on internet.
So guys, it finally happened. The day Andrew Schulz acknowledged all the criticism he received for his infamous stunt, pun intended, the time where basically a chunk of his fan base felt cheated after buying his special shortly before he released it on YouTube for free. Recently, Schulz had Vivek on, and they started getting into Vivek's history on his supposedly shady financial dealings and how they weren't true. He just has people out there that are trying to ruin his reputation and tear down his public image, and Schulz is like, yeah man, I can relate. I know a thing or two about that. So Schulz has had a few things over the past couple of years that has given him some negative feedback online, but there's been one thing that's been a thorn in his side. It even caused him to have a falling out with Jeff Wittick. Right now, we're talking about his comedy special, Infamous.
I was putting out my special. This is the last special. I was going to do a special with the streamer, and then they didn't want me to say certain things, and I was like, all right, well, can I buy it back and then put it out myself? And I put it out myself, and I sold it myself. And then as I'm selling it, I at one point tell people, there's like video of this. I'm like, guys, if you can't afford it, just steal it. It will be on the internet somewhere. You can just do that. That's totally fine. And then if you can't figure out how to illegally stream it, I'll have it up on YouTube in the future. Yeah. This is me telling people, like, if you can't afford it, just go take it. And if that doesn't work, it's going to be up on YouTube. And then the special did really well. And I guess people spun this narrative that like, oh, you made us buy it, and then a few weeks later you put it on the internet. And in my mind, I'm like, every movie that comes out eventually is on TV for free. Like every UFC fight I watch is eventually on YouTube. I'm like, I don't think I'm doing anything different than I told the, but the narrative is he took our money and then he went with it. And I don't address it because I'm like, well, there's nobody that could believe this because I literally said verbatim on the podcast, like, just go take it and then eventually be there.
Man, the way he describes that scenario, it's convincing. You almost feel bad for him. I mean, he says right there that he told us it would be on YouTube in the future. So why are people calling it a scam? Well, taking a look at everything he did and what he told fans in the lead up to it, you can certainly see how some people feel like they were misled. So there's actually three main factors to this. First off, let's look at the language he uses.
You'll be able to watch the special. It'll exist there for 2 weeks, and then we're gonna email everybody who orders a special a private link of it, so you'll have it forever. So when you get it, you just get it forever. Okay, We're also talking to Moment House. We might just keep it up there in perpetuity, so you can have that or the link. But I know it says the 2 weeks. Maybe that's confusing, but you'll just have this special forever.
Keep buying it. We still got time.
That's right. Yeah. And it's yours forever when you get it, by the way. I just want to let you know.
He mentions that you get to own it forever. He said you'd likely get your own private link that's yours, so you get to watch it again whenever you like. To me, that implies that the only way I'm going to be able to watch this thing after that 2 weeks is this private link. Even though he said he eventually is going to upload it to YouTube, who knows when that's going to be, right? Now, in reality, why would anyone care about owning a link to his special if it's going to be on YouTube for free? Why would you go digging through your email to find the URL if you could just go on YouTube and find it there? Emphasizing that you'd own it forever with your very own link implies that this link is the only easy way you're going to be able to watch it again. And by the way, the link that the fans received no longer even works, so you don't own shit. If you want to see what you supposedly own forever, the only place you can watch it is on YouTube like everyone else. The second is the story of why he's courageously buying his special back from the streamer and releasing it himself.
We just did not want to compromise material, and they just did not want to compromise.
It was like entire
businesses.
Bits. Yeah, we don't blame them.
I mean, there was multiple bits, like multiple even lines and other bits. And like, I get that. I understand. I have empathy for people who are in that business. I want to maintain the integrity of the piece. And that took, us buying it back. Basically, long story short, it took us buying it back, and now we're delivering it right to you guys.
He implies that this was just too offensive for Netflix. He wants the uncut version to be out there so we can see his art in its purest form, with a gambling ad read right smack in the middle of it. But anyways, so now we're thinking, wow, good on Schulz for sacrificing this streaming deal, which is most likely Netflix, to put it out himself just so the fans could enjoy it even more. But then you watch it and realize that this wasn't that offensive. None of the jokes stood out as edgy or too dark. So it put that whole story into question. Maybe Netflix or whoever really did want to cut something out, but after seeing it, I can't imagine which jokes they wanted to cut. And he hasn't even mentioned, as far as I know, the particular jokes that they wanted to take out. So that whole too offensive for Netflix, it just felt like a marketing stunt. Lastly, we have the biggest reason that pissed off a lot of his fans, the timeline. The whole time he explains that it's only going to be up for 2 weeks. So the fans obviously feel a sense of urgency.
You'll be able to watch the special. It'll exist there for 2 weeks, and then we're gonna email everybody who orders a special a private link of it, so you'll have it forever.
But wait, the 2 weeks goes by and there's another 2 weeks extension. That part doesn't feel too bad, but then about a month after that extra 2 weeks, it's on YouTube. It's simply too quick. If he put it up 3 months later, I don't think it would have been a big deal, but he wanted it up there, no doubt, to get as many views as possible while the topic is still hot. But a month after your fans felt guilt-tripped into paying out of pocket for your special, you end up putting it out for free just a few weeks later. You can see why some people felt blindsided. But wait, like Schulz says, he told everyone that it was going to be on YouTube, so what's the big deal?
I at one point tell people, there's like video of this, I'm like, guys, if you can't afford it, just steal it. It will be on the internet somewhere. You can just do that. That's totally fine. And then if you can't figure out how to illegally stream it, I'll have it up on YouTube in the future.
Yeah.
This is me telling people, like, if you can't afford it, just go take it. And if that doesn't work, it's going to be up on YouTube.
Okay, so in this recent episode, he recounts at one point he told people to steal it, and if you can't figure out how to pirate it, he'll have it up on YouTube in the future. Well, I went back and painfully looked through all the times he promoted it, and I found one time where he mentions that it would be up on YouTube. But let's see what he actually said back then.
I would really appreciate that shit, but if you're strapped for cash, pirate it. It is what it is. We understand everything exists on the internet. And if you don't know how to figure out one of them pirating sites, I'm sure one day in the future I'll have it up on my YouTube channel. You can wait for that.
Even that feels a little vague. He says, I'm sure one day I'll have it up on YouTube. That sounds like it could be months away if it even happens. Maybe in his mind he was transparent with his fans, but not really. And then in this recent recount of what happened, he compares it to movies or UFC fights.
You made us buy it, and then a few weeks later you put it on the internet. And in my mind, I'm like, every movie that comes out eventually is on TV for free. Like every UFC fight I watch is eventually on YouTube. I'm like, I don't think I'm doing anything different than and I told the...
Well, let's use his examples. Now, movies usually are in cinemas for 1 or 2 months. Then they usually wait about 3 months before it's available to stream, unless you're paying a hefty price on Prime or something like that. You're usually waiting a few months to be able to watch that movie for free. And when it comes to UFC fights, let's look at this recent example from UFC 307. This fight originally premiered in October, and the UFC just made it available to watch for free in March. That's 5 months. So cinemas 3 months generally, and the UFC seems to wait at least a few months. He waited 1 month.
Sure, there are people who didn't hear me say that, and then they felt triggered. And for those people, I feel genuinely bad. I'm like, no, that fucking sucks.
His fans paid out of pocket to support him since he was doing this independently, but then why am I paying out of pocket when I could watch it for free a month later? Because you want as many of your fans to be able to enjoy it, but then he has an ad read in the middle of it, even though the thing is monetized on YouTube. The whole scenario feels like he strategized on how to squeeze as much money out of this as he could. And if you disagree with that statement, then just imagine an alternative universe where Schulz tells his fans on Flagrant, hey, I'm making my special available for a month. Please go and buy it. And if you can't buy it, 4 weeks after that, I'm uploading it to YouTube for free. I think if he's that transparent about his plan, I really don't see him making as much money. And of course, there's no backlash. So clearly this has bothered Schulz, and I don't blame him. It's a bad look that people are saying you scammed your own fans, and even though most of his fans likely don't feel like they were scammed, they'd be totally fine paying for it either way because they want to support their favorite comedian. However, due to the reasons I listed, the language he used, the timeline, and the hype around it being censored on Netflix when it felt like there was nothing to censor, I can totally see why a chunk of his fans feel like they were swindled. I guess the streamers are no longer censoring him now. He's released his second comedy special on Netflix, so no need for Schulz to change the game, as Akash so passionately put it.
I truly believe you changed comedy twice. Okay. And I'm going to say this, and everybody's going to think that I'm sucking your dick because you're my brother, and that's only half true. I'm also not wrong.
Well, I guess everything is back to normal now. Not sure if the self-release plan would work quite as well as the first time, since a lot of people would likely just wait for the free version. Now, do you think he was wrong for anything, or was it all reasonable? Let me know in the comments. I'll see you guys on the next one.